somewhere.
Uh-oh.
They're dropping something.
All
right, folks, we are live. We'll go ahead and wait a few minutes to see, let everybody jump on here.
It's like that awkward moment. It's like, I guess
I know
it's
it's
popular.
the weirdest thing.
Who wants to come talk to me?
A few of our regulars try to jump in here and be the first to post a comment, and they're always like, first. So
yeah.
I always think it's funny when I post about a live stream because it's like, come ask me your questions. I used to have this roommate in college that he'd like come home, all of us roommates would kind of sit down and be like, so what questions do you guys have for me today? And we'd be like, how was your day?
John's here. Hey, John, how are you?
Hey, folks, did you jump in here? Go ahead and throw a comment. Let us know who you are, where you're coming from. We'll say hello to you. We'll do in just a few minutes here. Once we give everybody a few minutes to jump in, we'll do a quick intro for Jim, for those of you who don't know them, and we will jump right into it. I think it's going to be a fun little live stream here. Who's that? Jason. Jason, what's going on? Jason, good to see you, buddy.
Got some shy people in here.
Yep.
What's your concealed carry?
I just switched over from a P365 to the 365 XL. I did a video on that. Just went ahead and jumped into the dark side with a red dot on my CCW weapon and the TLR7 Lite. So right now that's kind of the rig that I'm running. P365 Hollow Sun 507K with the TLR7 Sub Lite, which is I like it.
What about you?
Well, I have all the concealed carry guns, and I'm due for a battle between them to kind of see which one is really the best. But they're all so similar. All those micro 9s now. It's like, do you want this a 1/4 inch longer here? It's like they're dang similar. I have the P365 XL with the Romeo 0 red dot.
Mm-hmm.
I also have the regular P365. I like the red dot. I think the dot's so helpful for me. It is. I've got Hellcats and anyway, all of them. And man, I need to like spend a week, shoot them all one next to the other and really decide which one I'm going to go with. But
yeah,
they're all so similar these days.
They are. I mean, that's the thing is it's kind of like cars. At some point you start perfecting designs and you start converging down to one design. You can only make something so organized. I will say, I hate SIG, and all my clients know I'm not a fan of SIGs at all. But the first time I shot that 365, I'd been carrying a Smith & Wesson Shield for a long time, which I liked before that. And man, the first time I shot that 365, I was like, oh God, I'm gonna have to get one of these. And I start carrying a SIG. Shoots like a full-size gun. I've been really impressed with it.
It's only SIGs we own.
It is.
365 still.
It is.
John says, I'm from the soon-to-be-able CCW state.
I don't know.
I don't know, John.
You got some politicians it'll still put you in jail. You might beat the rap.
That case was pretty big, though. Man, the lawyer in me was excited to read some gun case that like actually had some sense to it. And it really, the justices showed really paved a lot of way for some of the direction they want to go with. Often they kind of like drop little hints in their decisions of kind of, here's another case we might like to see. And Justice Thomas he's ready to overthrow some stuff. I'm liking it.
Yep. Witchell says, hey, everybody, I'm here.
Steve, good to see you, buddy.
John said New York is still a crappy state.
John, you need to get out of New York. You need to come down here to God's country, West Virginia. And like I said, we'll do some business development or something together.
Mike's here.
Mike, good to see you, buddy. I'm going to be ultra. Yeah, I was really so shocked to see. I mean, that case wasn't even close. It was 6-3. I was really to see some of the liberals come over to. I mean, that was just shocking to me. So that's probably one of the most definitive cases that we've seen in a long time, especially on such a shouldn't be, but it's obviously a very controversial topic, and especially coming right after the shootings there in Uvalde.
Yeah.
Bone says, thanks to you both for having clean language in your videos, not common in the tactical space.
Yeah. not.
You can watch it with your kid.
Yeah, I don't see the point of, I don't know, just being silly with that. Yeah. So hey, folks, let's go ahead and jump right in this. I really, first of all, I've told him a couple times already, but I want you guys to know how appreciative I am for Jim coming on here. If you guys haven't checked out his channel, you really should. You know, I was just telling Jim, you know, I found his channel several months ago, and I've taken a lot of notes of how he presents information. You know, he does a really good job, and clearly there's a lot of preparation that goes into what he does. And you know, having done YouTubes, I know what goes into it, and the way that he can concisely compile data and present those in such a very digestible way. And I don't care if you're a shooter or not. And you know, that I definitely try to do that. Try to present information to people that are, you know, advanced all the way down to maybe they've never touched a firearm. But he does such a good job with that. And you know what? He's just such a likable guy. You know, and you know, I enjoy watching him. So if you are not subscribed to his channel, Backfire, definitely go check that out. He does a lot of very in-depth comparison reviews of gear. Just a very informative channel. I learn something new every time I watch it. So it's a good channel to check out.
Thanks.
Jim, if you will,
Be on here. Yeah, it's been crazy how Backfire's changed. 9 months ago, the channel didn't even have 100,000 subscribers, and now we've crossed 500,000. It's just, I've been amazed at how much appetite there is for this kind of gun content and stuff. I've learned a lot as I've gone on. You know, I think when the channel started, whatever, 2.5 years ago, I was a very weekend kind of shooter. You know, I'd shot all my life, like most people, honestly, but I was no expert, and I don't know that I am now. But just doing it every single day, and I've learned a ton, and it's fun to share it.
Yeah, you know, and again, you have a real talent for it, so hopefully you'll keep doing it. I mean, and obviously you are. Do you think there was like was there any one event you think that kind of hit that, or do you think it was just a point of saturation where you kind of reached a certain amount of people, and then you started kind of just seeing kind of like rapid growth with that? What do you think was the cause of that?
I don't know. I think a lot of different things. You know, I've looked through the videos and kind of see which ones are like actually turning people into subscribers. And it's a little bit of everything that does. People kind of come for a lot of different reasons. But I have been a full-time content creator for 12 years now. And I've built up a lot of different online brands that I've kind of built up and sold once they got to, you know, a million viewers and stuff. Then I kind of build that brand up and sell it. So I've sold quite a few different brands. And so you kind of start to figure out how to create the content in a way that's going to start spreading. And, you know, I was just talking with the CEO of a certain firearms company anyway, that was telling me how hard it's been for them to figure out kind of this content world, and was asking me what to do. And I said, you know, honestly, it's like if somebody came to you and said, how do you make an accurate gun? And it's like, well, man, it's like 1,000 different tiny little things that you do in the manufacturing process to improve tolerances and stuff. And I think it's the same thing with content creation. Man, there's no silver bullet to it, but you find, you know, if I stop saying, people stay on the video a tiny bit longer. If at the end of a video, I don't clearly signal that the end of the video is coming, they stay on a little bit longer. If I have a little bit catchier of an intro, they stay on a little bit. And it's just 1,000 of those little things that eventually start kind of creating the content that people want to see.
No, that's good info. I'm taking notes. So, Jim, if you will, for those that you don't know you, or maybe even some of your subscribers that are on here already, or people that do know you, tell us a little bit about yourself. And I think we've dabbled into it, but you know, how you got into this specifically, and just kind of go from there.
Yeah, so I went to law school. I became a lawyer, and the day that I became a lawyer, I rolled over in bed and I was like, honey, I think I want to be a blogger. You know, those 3 years we just sacrificed. But I had started a blog about photography, and it was like really growing. It was getting millions of people coming to it. And so I decided I'd sell online photography classes, and they sold out like in seconds every month that I put them up. And I was like, man, this is earning more money than I could have as a lawyer. And so I ran that for a few years. And then I started an additional brand about boats, and it really grew. And then we need more lawyers. And then I had another brand about pocket knives, and it really grew. And I started to build tons of different websites, and they were growing. And it was hard, a lot of hard work to get them to go. But then I found out like you can sell these online brands. And so I'd build them up that they were getting good revenue, and then I'd sell it for a multiple of those earnings. And then I'd start another one and start another one. Anyway, then I started a company called Income School, which is a great company. I don't own it anymore, but we taught people how to create online businesses. And that company really grew. We grew to 80 employees, and then 6 months ago. And so Backfire started really as just a case study at Income School. We were like, well, we've got to kind of prove the concept that you can be earning money online. We've got to keep starting new brands to show people what you can do. And so we started Backfire. We spent like 1 hour every week doing it, and it really started growing. And then almost a year ago, my business partner offered to buy me out of the business, and it had grown to 80 employees at that point. And so it was a big deal, but I sold the business. And so I said, well, when I sold it, I'm going to keep Backfire and just kind of grow that. And so Backfire is what I've been doing about half of my time. And then the other half of the time I spend with my wife. We're actually opening a private school here in St. George, Utah. We're really sick of the indoctrination and gender crap that's going on at public schools, and we're not going to stand for it. And so we're building our own building to open that private school and allows kids' minds to be free of this mess that the government's putting into them. And so anyway, that's kind of what I do. Half of my time is teacher and growing that school, and half of my time is here on YouTube.
So you're actually teaching in the school?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
yeah, this is not the kind of business we want to just outsource. I want to be with those kids.
Nice.
That's awesome. Yeah. No, we're pretty lucky in that where we are here, we're kind of, I don't know, just kind of just over a ridge, and like everything changes on that other side of the ridge. We were pretty set in not putting our kids in public school, and then we went and checked out the couple that are here. And we've been very happy with those. We haven't had any of those issues, at least overtly. And now that our older son is in middle school,
things are changing a little.
We're definitely seeing some of that creep in, even here in West Virginia, unfortunately. So that's something that we've been talking about and thinking pretty hard about as far as and also making sure that we do what we can to make sure that we keep their head on straight for the most part. But at the end of the day, and this is something I've talked about before on our podcast, like, we don't stand a chance because they're with them so much. And it's just, indoctrination by 1,000 cuts. It's just a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here. So the next thing you know, they've completely changed the way that this kid thinks. And it's definitely a big concern. And that's great to hear somebody like you doing something about it. And that's good.
Does West Virginia, Utah, have any sort of like school choice going on or anything like that?
No, we don't. And so this is fully private school. Unfortunately, it's not every parent's, not all parents can afford it,
Sure.
To send their kids to a private school. But I'm glad we can provide it to whoever can. Actually, there was a Supreme Court case this week that dramatically opened the door to school voucher systems across the country. Anyway, I don't know if we need to get in the details, but some cool things are happening that are providing opportunities. We saw the Supreme Court case on guns in New York this week. That one on school choice. We're seeing some reality coming from the Supreme Court that's helping to protect our freedoms.
Yep.
Yeah, and obviously the big decision on abortion overall, Roe v. Wade being overturned, it's just a huge victory, I think, for this country, and hopefully we'll start going back down a more moral path. I don't know if that'll happen, but
yeah, and if I could stroke a pen and just outlaw abortion outright, I would.
Yeah,
but it would also create civil war. And so I like what's happened, that it goes to the states.
Yeah.
That if you want to live in a crazy state, do it. But you can live in a place that's free of those things too. And that's really how this country was set up in the first place.
Right.
And the federal government has taken a ton of power away from the states. And so I'm glad to see that pendulum swinging back.
Yeah. Well, the funny is that that's not the narrative. No, of course, the narrative is that they've outlawed abortion completely, which is just so ridiculous. That's, I just wish we could get a little bit of honesty out of the media sometime. So let me ask this about one of the things that I always, I was so against doing anything on YouTube for so long, just because of being, I guess, associated with the between shills and kind of people that present themselves in a way and are putting out a lot of just bad information when it comes to firearms, tactics, whatever it happens to be. I was very hesitant to get into the space for a really long time. What do you think the contributions overall to firearm specific channels, to firearm interests and things like that in general, and then maybe you can touch on some of the things that you see as kind of a negative of that?
Well, I think people need to look a little bit differently at what a YouTube channel is. I think all of us kind of came from a mindset of TV, where pretty expert content that was being put out requires a lot of people to put together a TV show. And on YouTube, anytime people see something that's incorrect or somebody that's not an expert talking, they say, "Ha, fraud, I caught you." And as somebody that started a lot of different brands, I wish that the mentality would change a little bit. I'm not an expert. I don't have to be. I'm going to get on here and I'm going to share some stuff that I've learned. Yeah. And that's okay. And you can take that for what it is. What's not cool is when somebody's pretending to be an expert, saying they're an expert, and they just aren't. That's not cool. Yeah. Never is. But for somebody that's a beginner to get on and just say, "Hey, I'm a beginner, but this is what I learned today, and I can be a little bit better now," I'm cool with that. I love that kind of content on YouTube.
Yeah, no, and
so I think if people are authentic, it's awesome.
Yeah, no, I think you do a great job with that. It's not, you don't, it's going down kind of a path of discovery with you. I think that's what's really interesting about, it's like, hey, we're going to do these tests. We're going to test this out. You're going to see it together. And I don't think that I think that's why one of the reasons that your channel is so popular, because we're just going along on this path together. And, I don't think that you present yourself in that manner at all. But my problem, like you said, was with, exactly people saying, "Hey, this is how you do this, or this is this, or this is the best gun, or this is the best tactic," all those things without it having any real background or knowledge to kind of back that up. And, definitely.
Yeah. And it's cool to have that mix of people that you can go to, because you're obviously a definite expert on the things that you do. And it's awesome to be able to hear from all of those voices. Sure. I was looking into sailing yesterday, just trying to learn more about sailing. And just because I think it's cool, you get stuck in these YouTube rabbit holes of different things, and these people get on catamarans with their family and sailing around, right? And it's interesting. Like, I watched one channel that this guy was like a broker selling boats, and he's an expert because he's the boat broker. And so, he knows a lot about what he's doing. But then I watched another channel of just somebody who just barely bought their first boat. I learned a lot from that channel, actually more, because he was asking the same questions that I am. And so he was talking about things in the same place that I am. And so I like having that mix of things. And I wish kind of audiences would warm up to that mix of different voices on YouTube too. People are pretty quick to attack somebody who's a newbie. It's like, it's okay. He's not pretending to be an expert either.
I think they're pretty quick to attack even the experts if they feel like
yeah, that's true.
They can.
Yeah. And again, I always realize, look, there's still, when it comes to firearms in so many different areas, I do my best not to come off as like some haughty freaking, "Hey, I'm an expert and I know this." But it is funny when people challenge you on certain, it's the weirdest things too. It's not like it's the weirdest things that they'll challenge you on. And then it's like, well, I've tested this or I've done this. And have you done any, like, why are you saying something? Because I'll tell you that the weirdest comments I get is like scope mounting. It's like, well, the top of those things aren't flat, or this, or you can't trust this, or, it's just the weirdest, or the only way to do this right is plumb bob, or, it's just strange, some of the stuff that comes out. But I do find
it is funny, and it's hard when you're making videos to not turn the whole video defensive.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I feel like, I just did some accuracy testing of a gun, and it's like, it feels like I've got to stop and say, yes, I did give the gun time to cool down between shots. Here's the reason I'm doing three round groups instead of 5 round groups. It's because that's what the company's guarantee is. It's a 1 MOA 3-shot group.
Right.
Just all these different things. Yes, I checked the action screws, but then if you explain all those things, then the audience, it just feels very like you're trying to defend yourself the whole time.
Sure.
But if you don't say them, then the audience just says, you're an idiot. You didn't do this. And it's like, actually, I did. I just, so it's really hard to find that balance until, I guess, at some point, your audience kind of has a trust in you that you tried that stuff, but then you get a new viewer and they don't know what all happened. So it's hard to show everything that's important without just being defensive.
Yeah. And ultimately, you just can't respond to everything. And then you can't, like you said, you can't foresee everything. A good example, I did a review on the MPA PMR Pro, which I saw in a video. You have an MPA rifle. But at the end of the video, I was literally just doing the review on the rifle. And I was like, it's really good value. You get all this for $2,500. And again, if somebody's in the comments that you're the one that said this, it's just funny. And that is, he's like, well, you got to be careful saying that because, you got a $2,500, $3,000 college scope on there too. And I'm like, the whole review is about the rifle. I didn't say one thing about the scope. It's like, I think that's a given. That should be kind of an implied thing, but you're right. It's funny.
And just real quick, guys, we do have some questions coming up in the comments. We'll get to those in a bit. We'll do some, we'll take some questions.
Go ahead and throw them up there.
Okay. Let's see. Spencer from New Zealand here. What do you think of Sierra tipped Game King bullets versus the Hornady ELDX? They seem to have thicker copper jackets, possibly less fragmenting on the game animal impact.
Jim, you're the hunting specialist, and I know you've done pretty extensive testing with hunting rounds, so I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, I have. I've killed more animals with the ELDX than any other bullet. I really like the ELDX. I hear people knocking it all the time about not being tough. And man, I've done quite a lot of ballistic gel testing with it. And I can't replicate it on gel. It just performs really well. And on game, I probably either me or my kids while they were with me, we've probably shot 40 animals with the ELDX, and it's performed just really well. The Sierra, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
The Sierra tipped Game King, I've shot quite a bit of. I've actually never killed an animal with the tipped Game King. I have killed an animal with the Match King, which is a story for another day, I guess. But the ELDX does fragment a lot. It's going to leave a lot of little things throughout, and you got to cut out that little section of meat. So if that's you don't like that, then maybe that's something to look at. I haven't tested them side by side. I've shot a lot of tipped Game King, but I have not seen it on an animal to know about how much fragmenting there is.
Yeah, I have just been super impressed in the last 2 years with what Hornady's been doing with the ELD, the ELDX. I've done a lot of times we'll have, I pretty much only shoot Hornady now just because they're so consistent. And I haven't even touched reloading because number one, I don't have time most of the time, but number two, I mean, I shot the MPA PMR Pro 0.22 MOA 5-round group off of a squeeze bag with, the ELDs. I mean, it's just hard to, and especially before when I could get ready-made ammunition as cheap or cheaper than reloading. Now, I think that's changed a little bit.
The other way.
A lot, yeah. Now reloading is like a quarter of the cost.
If you can find components. But I mean, I like I said, I've just been impressed. But I haven't done any actual terminal ballistic testing, versus ELDX versus Sierra tip. But man, Hornady's really got their ammo locked in lately. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
Other question we got here.
Oh, that was the wrong one. Someone was asking what happened to some of the guys on Backfire.
Mm-hmm.
Jim, what tags did you draw this year?
So I only got 2. I was really hoping I had a couple unfortunate things happen. I marked in my calendar the day to submit my tags for Colorado, and I just marked it wrong. And so I missed it by a day. So I missed Colorado, which was going to be my most reliable state. But I did draw a deer tag in eastern Utah. I think it's called the LaSalle Mountains South, I think is the unit, a deer. And then I got an elk tag in New Mexico. I think it's unit 50, if I remember right. And so I didn't draw as much as I was hoping. I had a couple points for Wyoming. And so I thought I was going to draw, but they really slashed how many tags they gave out because of the drought to save numbers. And so I missed Colorado, and Wyoming, I just didn't get lucky there. And so I only have those 2 tags. And so I'm hoping I can put together a hunt in Alaska or something that's easy to get a tag, maybe a deer hunt in Texas, something like that. So I'm looking to pick up a little something extra, but just those 2.
Nice.
We'll say elk is my favorite game that I've ever tasted.
Still say moose.
Oh, really?
Elk. Yep.
She doesn't have good taste buds, so don't listen to her.
You know, speaking of meat, I felt bad. I ruined a deer that I shot. I shot a blacktail deer in Alaska in the fall, and it was a little small deer. And so a small deer, blacktail, and they have lots of forage there. Like everybody always says, blacktail tastes really, really good. And so I thought this thing is going to be good. And we cooked it once or twice, delicious. And the guide, which is actually turned out to be a transporter, which is actually, that's a hilarious story we can get into later. But he had what do you call it? Not a freeze dryer. What do you call those things that suck all the air out of the bag?
Dehydrator?
Or but you put the meat in there and then it.
Oh, vacuum sealer.
Yeah, vacuum sealer. That's it. He had a vacuum sealer. And so we did that to all the meat. And then I cooked it, I took one out of the freezer, and it had only been like 2 months. I took it out of the freezer and I cooked it, and everybody got sick, like super sick. And I was like, man, and it was like cooked pretty thorough. I don't even eat real red meat. And so anyway, everybody got sick. And then the second time, the same thing happened. And I was like, what the crap? And I looked through those packages, and the vacuum seal had broken, which I don't really understand because it was frozen. I mean, within minutes of me shooting it, because it was so cold outside, and it stayed frozen in the airplane. We've had it in the freezer this whole time here, but the vacuum seal broke. And so I would have thought it was only 2 months. Vacuum seal broke, but it's been frozen the whole time. It'd probably be fine. Sure. But I don't know what, but it's not good. It got everybody sick twice in a row. So anyway, I wish I understood more of it, but I ruined that deer.
Yeah, that would suck. The what's your? I know you've done a lot of hunting, like in Africa too, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been there a couple times. So much fun. It's just a target-rich environment. I mean, like a normal day, you may kill 4 animals. Yeah, and it's not like here where you got like elk, deer, bear, maybe you see a mountain lion or something. There, it's like you may see 20 different species of animal in a single day. And so it's really fun. It's just dang fun to hunt there. Been there twice, and my in-laws are actually on a religious mission for the next year and a half in Tanzania. And so I was telling the wife, like, I think we better visit your parents, hon. Yeah. They just.
Do the kids go with you to the Africa hunts?
Yeah. Yeah. My 2 boys are 13 and 11, and there'd be mutiny if I left them behind.
Where at in Africa did you go for those hunts?
Both times in South Africa.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah, I want to take my kids to Africa, just show them how the rest of the world lives. I keep telling them. I was in Nigeria not too long ago, and then Benin and Gambia. And I went to another place. Where's the other place I went to?
I don't remember.
I don't know. Liberia.
Yeah.
Liberia.
There you go.
But yeah, no, I'd love to get over there. I mean, you can do everything. My goal is to shoot a white rhino and have that thing mounted somewhere, but I'm joking, folks.
That'd be awesome.
Speaking of mutiny.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Is that your favorite place to hunt?
I mean, it's such a different experience. Like, in a way, yes, it is. But it's also just a totally different experience to, you know, hiking through the mountains exhausted, backpacking and stuff for a week in search of one animal. The adrenaline pumps a lot more for
Right.
that kind of hunt. For, you know, I hear a lot of people saying like, oh, you're not a hunter if you don't get within 100 yards or whatever. Man, to me, like the adrenaline of like you sitting cross canyon from a deer and dialing in that scope and everything, like that's an exciting hunt to me. And so it's just different experiences. You know, you go hunt hogs in Texas, and when you get 40 hogs coming in, you just bang, 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 bang. That's exciting, right? And you know, I've gone to private ranches in the United States, and that's exciting. You see so many animals and they're huge, and it's still a hard hunt. You may or may not get your quarry wherever you go.
Right.
And that's an exciting hunt. You know, you go to Africa and you're going to shoot a lot of animals, but that's kind of the excitement of a lot of things. And you go to Alaska and it's the elements and that, you know, just toughness and stuff. And that's kind of the story. They're all just different experiences. So it's hard for me to say which one's, you know, a favorite. Aoudad hunting though, dang no, I don't know if that may be the most exciting hunt I've been on is aoudad.
Really? Where'd you do that at?
Texas.
Texas. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, again, going back to that hunt I did in Alaska, where a friend of ours, his dad lives out there. He owns a construction company, but he literally flew me and my sergeant major out on a plane into Kanik. It was Kanik Glacier. And just drop. I mean, it was like National Geographic. You see herds of freaking everything. I mean, you see bears as you're flying through. I mean, it's literally like National Geographic. And then you get dropped off there, and you're just kind of roaming around looking for. I mean, it was a magical experience. I always tell Summer she doesn't like the cold. I don't either. But I tell you what, I would move to Alaska in that backcountry in a heartbeat, and it was completely magical.
Yeah, it is. It's awesome. I really want to get back there. We did last time we did a blacktail hunt in Alaska, but man, caribou, I want a dang caribou, but I don't want to do the whole road, and getting flights back in are expensive now. And so I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do it, but man, I'd love to go hunt caribou.
How hard is it to get like everything back from it when you shoot an animal in Africa? How hard is it to get everything back? How does customs work with that?
So you can't bring any of the meat from Africa. It all stays there. You get to eat it while you're there. And then they always say, oh yeah, we take it to the local tribes or villages. Like they're all, you know, savages living in the middle of nowhere. Really, they're just selling the extra meat. So you get to try it while you're there. And then the trophies that you're bringing back, mine was really fast. I had a great experience. I got it back in like 4 months. And so they did the taxidermy in South Africa, and then they mail it. Going through U.S. Customs is a nightmare, even with a clearance agent, and then it'll finally get it to you. So it's a lot of paperwork and stuff, but I mean, there are processes for it. It happens every day.
Yeah.
Nice. We have some other,
let's see. We did.
What's that big paragraph down there?
This one?
Yep.
Spencer again, why are the Barnes LRX so expensive? Here in New Zealand, they cost twice as much as the ELDX and the Sierra bullets I mentioned before.
Good question. I don't know why they are. I don't know that they're twice as much here in the U.S. I'd have to kind of look at it, but they're not dramatically more. But if you look at some of the other coppers, like the hammer bullets, they are way expensive, real popular right now, but way expensive because those things are lathe turned each one. And so it's just a slower process for those. But for us, I don't know that the Barnes bullets are terribly expensive.
Yeah.
In fact, they're about 45 minutes from me here in Southern Utah. They're a big factory.
There you go, Jim. There's a question for you. Best 300 Win Mag non-bolt gun.
I have no idea, man. I got bolt guns out the wazoo, but I a non-bolt 300 Win Mag. Couldn't tell you.
There's your answer.
That was helpful, wasn't it?
Any other questions there?
You ever done thar hunting in New Zealand?
No, never hunted tar. I'd love to get to New Zealand. It looks really cool, but haven't
tar. I don't even know what that is.
That's why I said it wrong, because I never
Yeah,
heard
it's like a little sheep thing, little tiny horns. They're pretty cool looking.
Nice.
I think I want one as a pet. I don't know if I want to hunt. Yeah. So, what's you were talking about a hunting story? That's one of the questions I had. Sorry. So, shoot us your best hunting story.
Oh man. Well, I guess since I teased it, I should follow up. This hunt in Alaska. So it's on Kodiak Island. The biggest bears on planet Earth are there, and they're very high density. I talking to several people who had been, maybe 60 or 70% of the people that go, you're going to see a brown bear. So it's a pretty dangerous place to be. And I'm taking my two boys, 13 and 11. And, it's just me and the boys. And so I was like, we better go guided for this, right? And so I hired a guide. I call him up twice before the hunt. And both times, like, the phone's like, he's in this super remote area. We can't talk. I've texted him a few times, and kind of a funny dude, but nice. And so we just didn't have a lot of details on this hunt. I booked it through Book Your Hunt, the website, and it says, fully guided hunt in Kodiak. And so cool, we had a couple other things we were doing, and it was kind of a last minute, we packed all our stuff. Because my younger son is pretty recoil sensitive, we just brought the 6.5 Creedmoor because we're just hunting deer, and the guide's going to, bring a guide gun. And I was going to get some bear spray when we got there. I thought, we're good. And so we get to Kodiak, we fly in to the airport. I communicated with the guide several times, what time we're landing and stuff in Kodiak. And I'd said it multiple times. And then we get to the airport, and I'm like, where are you, man? And he's not he's not there. I said, where are you? And he said, what time are you flying into? I won't out it, I guess. But he says the specific bay that he's in. And I'm like, well, you didn't tell me I had to go there. And so I had to get a flight from Kodiak to this specific bay where the guy is, which he just never mentioned that. And every time I said what time we're flying into the Kodiak airport, multiple times I went through my text. So I was like, no, I was clear here. He never said that. Whatever. We booked this backcountry flight. We get out, land, and we said, would like to go hunting as soon as possible. We just lost a day. I'm just trying to stay positive because this, you could tell he's just a simple guy. And so I didn't want to get on his case. And so, so he hop on the boat, drive out there, and get to, we're driving on the boat, and he says, where do you want to go? And I'm like, I don't know, man. You're the guide. Like, you tell me. And he says, all right, well, I got a spot. And so he drives, we land, and me and the boys jump off the boat onto the beach. He walks to the edge of the boat. This is literally how it goes. He throws an MRE to the three of us, and he says, all right, pick up at sunset. And he's backing out, and we're like, what? So it's me and the three boys with a 6.5 Creedmoor, and we couldn't bring the spray with us because we had taken a flight. I was planning to get the spray in Kodiak, and so we're like, okay, this just turned into a pretty serious situation. And so we're there, and then anyway, later on the trip, we find out that this guy is a transporter, which I knew the difference between a guide and a transporter. A transporter, can take you to where you're going. They're not allowed to recommend spots, can't help you with hunting, can't help you with cleaning the deer, that kind of stuff. They're transportation, right? And so I knew about that difference, just that his listing online said he was a guide. Right. And in fact, it specifically said fully guided. And it said it had, meat prep. So we're just out there, and it's frozen. I mean, that kind of just bitter cold. Like you look at the temperature and you say, 15 degrees. I've been in 15 degrees before.
Right.
But when you get those ocean winds and that humidity blowing through there, I mean, it is just bitter, bitter cold with the kids. And it was an awesome experience. You know, we got our deer, and it was a good experience. We were able to turn it positive, and it was good for the kids because like they just don't have that many opportunities to just learn mental toughness and staying positive and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so they're just broke down in tears, and they're like, we're alone, and they're bears, and they're frozen. And we'd taken my boy to get good quality boots because we knew there'd be snow. But man, for a 10-year-old, you can't find good quality boots. It's just the trash Walmart stuff. And so we brought them 2 different kinds of boots that specifically said waterproof on it, but his feet were wet all week. And so it was a disaster, but it made it like epically memorable, something that me and those boys are going to talk about for a long time. So it ended up a good trip.
Nice.
Survival experiences help bond people like nothing else. You know, you start figuring out who you're going to eat first. You have to, all those things that are going through your head. Yeah. So how long were you guys there on the island?
Just a week.
A week? That's legit. Yeah. So what did you guys bring for shelter and stuff?
Well, so he picked us up each night and took us to what he called a lodge, a very basic little house that kind of sort of had heat in it. So we were able to sleep there, but every day we were out on our own with a 6.5 Creedmoor in bear country. And we saw, bear tracks, and dude, those brown bear tracks are huge. Like it looks comically big the first time you see one of those Kodiak bear tracks. Like, yeah, somebody came and made that, right? Just you think it can't be that big of a print. They're just huge. Another guy that was with the same transporter that week had a close bear encounter at 20 yards. And so the whole time I was just praying, man. I was like, dude, if a bear comes, we're screwed. And so anyway.
The good thing is usually, dads can outrun their kids. So you'd be fine.
That's right. That's right. And think of the YouTube video. My kid got eaten by a brown bear. That's what I care about.
That's what I tell my kids all the time. I was like, the thing about kids is we can make more of you. So.
Oh man.
Well, that's awesome.
And I'm out to enjoy it.
Yep. That's funny. Let's see here. So let's talk about some gear. So you kind of already got hit. Right now, what's your favorite rifle?
Oh, that's hard. Okay, if I had one perfect gun, it'd be the Fierce Reaper.
Okay.
Fierce Reaper is a sweet, sweet gun. It looks like it's out of a video game. This is a bolt action rifle, hunting, tactical, however you want to use it, right?
Sure.
But it's a very modern platform, It's not your classic stock. But man, that thing is sweet. Really, really like that Fierce Reaper, but it's a very expensive gun. I think they're running $25,000 or $3,000. And so a budget buy that I think is really a good one to look at. I just reviewed the CVA Cascade, made by the same company as Bergara. Man, budget rifle that shoots really, really well. So I like that one a lot. Yeah, I think I'm a Bergara fan as far as the less expensive and the more expensive, but especially the less expensive rifles go. Boy, they're a leg above the rest.
Oh, Bergaras are amazing. I did a video on what was the B14? I forget which rifle it was. But man, I was just, again, I think it was under $1,000. The action felt great. I mean, just everything about it was great. It was the Bergaras are kind of a sleeper gun. There's no doubt about it. For the money, it's hard to beat. You're getting really good.
And that B14 is a Remington 700 pattern too, and so you can pretty easily upgrade that thing. Another one kind of in the mid between those, if we said the CVA Cascade or Bergara B14 on the low end, and then on the high end, a Fierce Reaper, kind of in the middle there is the Sig Cross. That gun is accurate, man. It's a legitimate half MOA gun, and I don't say that lightly. Like I've actually measured dozens of groups, and on average, it is a half-minute gun. Very impressive around that $1,500 price point. But it's only made in 308 6.5 Creedmoor and 277 Sig Fury, which I certainly would not pick right now. And so, man, just 2 cartridges is very limiting, I feel like. And their barrels are too short, in my opinion. You know,
it's what, an 18-inch barrel for 6.5?
Yeah. 18-inch barrel for a 6.5 Creedmoor, and I think it's a 16 for the 308. So very short barrels. And for hunting, I just wish we'd given it 2 more inches. I like a short barrel. Just so much easier to move in and out of stuff. But at that point, you're really, I mean, you're turning, if it were a 6.5 PRC, you'd be turning it into a 6.5 Creedmoor by that short of a barrel. And
it's so, that thing is light too. One of our instructors, our last long range course, one of our instructors got one. He brought that out, and it's just, that thing is super light. And yeah, I would hate to shoot that in a Magnum cartridge, like 6.5 PRC or anything. Anything.
Yeah, and the butt pad is paper thin.
Yeah. That thing is no, but that his performed really well, and again, that's a really good value. It's super light. Yeah, and we didn't do any. I mean, he was definitely shooting. I think a student was shooting that when we were zeroing it, and it was definitely under 1 MOA for sure. And again, I was shooting off bipods and just a squeeze bag, so nothing like a ransom rest or anything like that. Favorite cartridge right now? You've been doing a lot of. You had the Cartridge Wars going on, guys. If you haven't, you need to check that out. It's pretty good. That's again taking a lot of data and breaking it down the way that you do is super impressive. But anyways, go ahead.
Well, officially, I'd probably say the 7 mag, but in the end, what I'm really trying to accomplish, I want to shoot a 180 grain bullet at 3,000 feet per second. That's what I want. That to me, like, that's just the gold standard for hunting, because man, you shoot anything with 180 grains at 3,000 feet per second is toast. Yeah. And it's a perfect balance of recoil in a lightish weight rifle. And those 180 grain bullets, especially in the 7mm, the BCs are just crazy good. You can't beat the BCs of a 180 grainer in 7mm. Really high BC bullets are available. And so that's really the holy grail that I'm looking for. And so if I were to say the perfect cartridge, maybe it's the 7 Sherman Short for me. It's a very niche cartridge. You're going to have to go custom. I don't know if I already heard of it's a short action 7mm, kind of similar to a 7 SOM, I guess. But I really am interested in that cartridge. But in fact, tomorrow on the Backfire channel, I'm going to be revealing Hornady's 7mm PRC cartridge. Nice. I just got all the data in on that one. And so I think it'll be the first on YouTube on that. I've released a few videos on 7 PRC rumors. A couple people have leaked some things to me over the last few months, but now I have like the full thing on the 7 PRC. And so I'm hoping to get that video out tomorrow on Backfire. And when I first look at it at the 7 PRC, like what they're shooting for is 180 grainer at 3,000 feet per second. And I was like, oh, angels are singing.
I mean, how different is that from the 300 PRC?
Sorry?
How different is that from the 300 PRC?
Okay, so the 300 PRC, they aim for a heavier bullet. You could shoot 180 grainer in a 300 PRC. It'd be well over 3,000 feet per second. But they're aiming for a 225 was kind of their design goal with the 300 PRC. Right? And the reason that they wanted the real heavy bullet, that 225, is because they wanted at extreme distances that when you hit a gong, it actually moves the gong so that you can tell you hit it, because at some distance you kind of stop hearing it very much anymore. And so that was actually one of their design considerations with the 300 PRC is we can't just hit it. We have to hit it enough that you can tell at extreme distances. Yeah. And so I think 300 PRC is real cool. It's you got to have a pretty purpose-built rifle to shoot 300 PRC comfortably. That's a lot. It's a lot for people to handle, especially if we're talking in a lightweight hunting platform, which is what I would love to be able to have. So there are other cartridges that'll shoot 180 grainer at 3,000. 300 WSM would be a great choice. 300 Win Mag will do that as well. So it's not as if it's the first time that this has ever happened, but I think 7 is a special place. Just the BCs of those 7mm bullets at 180 grains. Man, they're like the G7 BC for the ELDX at 180 grains is 0.401. That is for the G7 BC. Right. That's really high, really high. So for bucking the wind and a flat trajectory, that thing is going to be crazy.
Yeah, I think the ELD 147 is like 0.35 or 0.36. So getting up there to 4, that is nuts.
Yeah, really impressive.
I've been watching a lot of your Binos content and laser rangefinder. So I know you're pretty impressed with a couple of those combinations. I've been looking at that for a new laser rangefinder. Between the two of those, what are your favorites? Binos rangefinder and or one or the other?
So I bought the Vortex. What's it called? The binoculars with the rangefinder in it. It's escaping me right now.
Vortex.
Is it a razor? Dang, I just can't think of the name right now. But the Vortex one has the solver in it and the rangefinder and binoculars. They're 10x42s.
Yep.
And I like it in a lot of ways. It's so nice to consolidate down that gear. The other thing I would say about having the laser rangefinder in the binoculars is I feel like I'm getting way more accurate ranges. When you're looking at those tiny little ones through only 3 magnification, especially if there are hills and stuff, it can be real hard to know, am I hitting that deer on top of the hill or am I hitting that hill behind that? So it can take some poking around and trying a couple different spots to be sure that your range is correct. I feel like with it in binoculars, now that we have 10 power, I feel like I can, first time I know what that laser is hitting. And so that's actually been the biggest upgrade for me, is not actually that I get to consolidate to one device, but I feel like when I get a range, I for sure lays the right spot. So I'm a big fan of that. I don't know that I love the glass quality. It's a step down in glass quality for $1,600 binos. And so I'm not a fan of that. And the other thing I don't like is I feel like the interface is just clunky. Like every time I am in there and I want to figure out my wind hold in those conditions, I feel like I got to look at the manual again and figure out how to do it. And so I still prefer an app for my ballistics solver. I haven't just gotten used enough to doing that portion in the binoculars as well, but it's definitely going that direction to have them together.
Are those Bluetooth? Will it?
Yep. I think they are. Have I tried it? No.
Okay. And I'm assuming that's the Vortex Fury HD.
Yes. Vortex Fury 1600 AB or something like that.
Yeah. Those are, and there's a bunch of SIG came out with another set. I was planning on getting some of those, testing those out, and that's definitely the direction everybody's going. And if they can get those on top of with an actual tripod mount on the bottom of them, which some of them have, some of them don't, or you can buy bridges for them. Because you're right. Even with like the SIG, I have a SIG and a Bushnell set. And like you said, I think the SIG is actually like a 7 power, but man, the freaking glass, the objective lens is so small that it's just such a small image. And then you got this huge ring in there that you're trying to, again, get a precise lays on, a target at, 1,200 yards. You don't know which lays in this. It's not
the hardest place I've ever tried to use a rangefinder is in Africa. There were several spots that was just flat as a pancake. I mean, just perfectly flat. We're laying down just barely above the weed level, and there's a deer or a deer, not in Africa, whatever, a kudu out there. at distance. And it's like, you have nothing you can hit. If you aren't exactly on the animal, that's it. Like, cause it's just flat as a pancake with just weeds. And so I found that really past 150, I could not get an accurate range on that animal without enough magnification. And so I always hear people saying like, oh, trajectory of the bullet's irrelevant these days. We have laser rangefinders. I'm like, nah, man, not where I hunt. I've had several situations that it's very difficult. You know, I poke it one time, poke it another time, and it's somewhere within 40, 50 yards, but I just can't quite tell out at distance. And so anyway, there are situations where it's hard to get a distance.
What's the furthest target, non-reflective target you were able to laze with those Furies?
I haven't tested that yet.
Okay.
I haven't. I mean, I've certainly gone out to 600-700 yards. I don't know if I've tried further than that.
Gotcha.
I don't have 1,000-yard range around me in southern Utah, and so unless I'm like doing a review, just haven't tried it.
Oh, fair enough. Oh, fair enough. What's some other gear that you just can't live without? What's your favorite other kind of accessory gear?
You know, I really like the MDT Skypod. I've been getting into 22 competitions, and dude, that thing is awesome. It's the most expensive bipod you can imagine. The price tag on those things is eye-popping. I mean, they want $1,000 for a triple pole bipod, but that thing is really sweet. I've been happy to have those. I got it on Black Friday when they were on sale. Really like that. For scopes, I really like a lot of different scopes at different price points, but that Vortex Razor LHT is really a sweet scope. It's lightweight. It's like the perfect zoom range. I think 4.5 to 22 or something like that. That scope I really have liked a lot. The Leupold VX5 as well is great. Yeah, those are a few things I really like.
Nice.
We have a lot of questions.
Oh, let's hear
those questions in there.
We have a lot. I'm trying to get it to show. There we go.
Man, you're shooting a deer with 300 wisdom. It's dying. You pick your bullet, it's gonna die.
You put a 50 grain projectile in there, it's still gonna kill it.
It's gonna die. No, I think 300. I'm not saying that it's overkill. I think that's a great cartridge. I'm just saying it's gonna die.
Yeah.
I would pick the ELDX as my just all around bullet. Man, that thing just performs really, really well. Yeah, what would you pick? What's your favorite bullet?
Me?
Yeah.
For man, I again, for long range shooting, I was 6.5, 147 grain. The 175 ELDs, I love those for 308. And those are the two main things that we shoot. I just ordered a 6.5 PRC. I'm pretty excited to get that in and do some testing on that and see what that does.
I love 6.5 PRC. It's
just the ballistics on it. I'm excited to shoot that. Get a Magnum, because that is one thing I will even say. With the 308, when you hit with something at in the 170 grain area, even at 1,000 yards, even though you see that trace just lob in there, still the impact that it has on that target, you can see that. Whereas 6.5, especially the 143 grain ELDs, it'll hit the target no problem, and obviously with a lot of force, but it barely moves that gong at 1,000. So 147 grain, I can't wait to try the 153 grain A tips out of that 6.5. I think that looks like a pretty sweet spot, but I haven't seen a whole lot of accuracy testing on the 153s. The BC is definitely higher than the 147s, but I just haven't seen a whole lot on how they actually shoot.
All right, we got best round for elk.
Well, 180 grain at 3,000 would be my pick. Whatever gets closest to that. Okay. Some of my favorite cartridges, I really like 7 mag, 6.8 Western, I think is definitely up there. I wouldn't consider a 6.5 PRC for elk-sized game. I hunted blue wildebeest in Africa with 6.5 PRC, actually by accident, and it wasn't up to the task. 6.5 PRC wasn't enough, in my opinion. And so I 6.8 Western, 7 mag, 30-06, 300 WSM is a heck of a choice. 300 Win Mag, did I say? Man, a lot of those will work, but what I don't like is experimenting on big game. And so I always hear people saying like, well, I could shoot a elk with a 6.5 Creedmoor. It's like, okay, I haven't shot an elk with a 6.5 Creedmoor, but I have seen elk-sized game in Africa shot with a 6.5 Creedmoor. It was not something you want to do. It was not up to the task. And so I don't know why, like, unless, if you have a shoulder injury or something like that, but like, why are we, I don't understand why people are like, I can hunt deer with 22-250. It's like, maybe you can, but like, can you really not handle the recoil of a 6.5 PRC? Why not use more, right? Like, why are we trying to find the tiniest thing that could possibly get the job done? And so I like going with the more traditional cartridges and not trying to push things.
Yep. Yeah. I think, the problem is when it comes to hunting, what's kind of going over into the hunting world is PRS, right? So PRS, people are getting these very flat shooting, high BC bullets, and, the objectives behind PRS, reduce recoil, and all of these other things, they're trying to get some of that over into the hunting or apply those same guns, ballistics. But you have one cartridge that is basically built around competition and those characteristics. Those are vastly different from what you want from a terminal ballistic standpoint. Because just even like I said, I mean, you have a 6.5, even at 1,000 yards, which we're starting to go transonic at that point, but it's still got a lot of oomph out there, and it barely moves those gongs at 1,000. So I was just looking, I think it drops down to 1,200 foot-pounds around 6, but 500-600 yards for hunting, just having that minimum of 1,500 foot-pounds for 6.5 is right around 400 to 500 yards. And, like you said, why shoot for the minimums?
Okay, so let me ask you a question then. Let's say Osama bin Laden is reincarnated. He comes back, and the world has called upon you to make a 800-yard shot. You got one shot to take him out, or he's gonna come after us, right? What cartridge would you pick?
800 yards, probably something with the ballistic profile of either 6.5 PRC and or even, I would like to put a really big hole in him. 300 PRC, 338. As long as I knew that gun was dialed in, I'd take any of those.
All right.
At 800 yards, there's a point on a man's head that you can hit. It'll blow his head clean off. I'm just joking. Yeah. So, between at 800 yards, I think you can do it with 6.5, but like I said, you're not guaranteeing that he's going down. But 6.5 PRC, something that's straight, you don't have to worry about wind as much. Or again, 300 PRC, even 300 Win Mag. Again, a lot of our sniper rifles were 300 Win Mag. So any of those, I think, those will get the job done. There's no doubt about it.
Get the job done, yeah. Another that I really like if I had to make a perfect shot on a once in a lifetime animal, the 28 Nosler is sweet. I used to own one. It's an awesome cartridge. The ballistics are crazy, man. That thing's like a laser beam, but it doesn't work well in a lightweight rifle unless you're going to put a brake or a can on it. And it's gonna, man, that thing burns out barrels so fast. It's nuts.
What's the barrel life on a 28 Nosler? You getting like at 1,000, 1,200, something like that?
A lot of people have reported to me under 1,000 rounds.
Really?
And so for me, that, if I go shoot one competition, you can put 150, 200 rounds through it in a weekend. And so it's like, man, you're burning through that thing fast. But if you're buying it for just a hunting rifle and you're going to use 2 or 3 boxes to practice and then go, it might last you a lifetime.
Sure.
It just depends who you are. For me, I shoot a lot high volume. And so a cartridge like that, no way, man, I'm not going with it.
Yeah. I mean, even our, we have a bunch of student guns that are either in 6.5 or 308. And I mean, we'll put 400 plus rounds through one gun in a weekend. So $20 wouldn't be a good student gun, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's the thing I will say about 6.5 Creedmoor is I don't know if there's a better range gun out there. If you just want to, learn, to see impacts in the scope, there's some movement there, but you can learn to deal with it, to see impacts in the scope. You have like some recoil. It's not like shooting a 223 or something like that. So you can learn a little bit of that. But I mean, you're not going to develop a flinch or anything like that. It's cheap to shoot. Like for a range gun these days, just for learning and shooting, just general on a Saturday going to shoot, I don't know how you beat 6.5 Creedmoor.
No, and that's why I tell students all the time, when they ask me what gun that they should be getting, and we have a couple of 308s that we use as student guns, but really, 6.5 pretty much does everything 308 does and a little bit better when it comes to whether you're talking about competition, a range gun, it's just flatter shooting. It does everything 308 does and a little bit better. So, and like you said, it has a lot less recoil. Not a lot.
Yeah. The other thing I'll say about 308 that, in fact, I'm trying to put together a lot of data on this. So I track every group I shoot, every gun I test, every load I test. I write down what load it was, what gun it was, and the group size. And I have kind of a standardized way that I test them all. And I've gone through hundreds of groups now, and I put it all in my Excel sheet. And it'll probably take me a couple of years to really get a full answer. But what I'm excited to see is over, many, many different firearms in each chambering, which cartridges are truly inherently accurate. What I'm seeing anecdotally is the legacy cartridges, older cartridges, 308, 7 mag, 30-06, all that stuff. I just see a bigger variance between loads. They'll shoot tiny, tiny little groups.
Yep.
But you got to find the right load. There's a lot of variability that sometimes, you're shooting a 308, 30-06, and it's normal to find a load that'll shoot 3 inches. And then you find the right one and you can shoot tiny little groups. I just don't see that with 6.5 Creedmoor. I just don't see that with 6.5 PRC. I mean, certainly they'll like one load better than the other, but I just don't see that much variability between the loads. And that's a huge advantage, especially in times like this where ammo is hard to find. And most guys don't want to spend $200 on load validation. They want to just grab a load that they like and go shoot. And so as much as people complain and whine about, this cartridge isn't new, it's the same thing. I don't know, man. I disagree. The new, more modern cartridges, they're a lot easier to tune in my experience. But it's anecdotal, and it might take me a long time before I can prove it with big data.
No, I don't think it's. I think it. I don't know that it's even anecdotal in the fact that, number one, they have higher BCs. The bullet ogive's longer. It's meant to be a long, sleeker bullet. The length to width ratio is completely different from some of those legacy cartridges. And here's the other thing too, is, those bullets were specifically designed for the most part, again, gearing towards competition. And so when they made those bullets, all the dies, all the manufacturing process, I think were built more around that. There was a time, going back not that long ago, we didn't expect, one MOA out of every round that we got. And I think you have a lot of that manufacturing processes that weren't as tight and the tolerances weren't as strict. Going back to those 308 cartridges, they're not changing out how they build those bullets for the most part. There's some like Hornady. Definitely, again, Hornady, ELD, 308. That's what I do all my accuracy testing on 308. I mean, I just get such consistent groups, extreme spreads. The freaking, it's just the SDs on them are just super, super tight. It's just hard to justify. Again, when reloading was at or more expensive, especially reloading that stuff when you're getting such good accuracy right out of the box. So I think there's pretty good evidence of just why they shoot. I mean, again, that 6mm round whether you're talking about 6x47 Lapua, 6 Creedmoor, going up to 6.5s, for 800 and end, man, those things are just really, really great, and it's hard to beat those without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
PRS in the competition side of the house has definitely changed a lot. It's just definitely changed accuracy standards as a shooter, and definitely the equipment. People are so psyched up about it, and I love it. I love to see so many people getting into long range shooting. I do shooting of all types, carbine, pistol, whatever else. I love it all, but long range has always been my. If I could do that all the time, nonstop, I'd be all about it. And for people to start getting interested in, and to be able to see it as something attainable, because I think that for a long time they didn't feel like it was attainable, and it is.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people put a lot of voodoo into long range shooting, and it's not as complicated as people try to make it out to be.
Yeah.
Got a question. Thoughts on the Wildcat cartridges for hunting?
Knock yourself out, man. I love them. I love all the Wildcats. I just don't get it when people keep saying, like, we don't need new cartridges. We have everything under the sun. I mean, you certainly don't have to. Yeah. I mean, you could get yourself a 22 LR, 6.5 Creedmoor, 7 mag, and maybe a 300 WSM. You're done. Like, yeah. You got it. Maybe a 223. You got to have a 223, right? But if you had one of each of those, like, you're done. You can do everything under the sun in shooting. But for me, like, the ballistics is half of the fun. Right. And so, like, I enjoy hunting more when I loaded that cartridge and stuff. So, man, it's Wildcat everything, man. I think it's great.
Well, that's the thing too. Once you get into that and you start, there's what those cartridges can do out of the box, and then especially you start getting into those Wildcat cartridges, what you can actually make them do once you start reloading those things and really playing around with that. And of course, the gun combination as well. But it's if that's your thing, man, it's so much fun to sit there and tinker around with that and figure out what does what. But that's probably those of us that, I don't know, kind of weird.
Yeah, I think of it like fly fishing and spinning. Like, will you catch more fish fly fishing than dunking a worm? Maybe, maybe not, right? Like, and so do you need to get into all these crazy cartridges and stuff? Maybe it gets you an edge if you really know all that stuff. You might get an extra deer, possible, but it's about the fun of it. Yeah.
But you'll spend, and again, even going back to, my argument with reloading is like, again, back when we're just shooting 6.5 and stuff with sheep, is like, I'm spending 80% more time to get maybe like 5, maybe 10% better performance, and that's if I'm shooting real well on that day. But yeah, again, it's fun to do. It's a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed reloading my 4570 up there and playing around with the different cartridges for that. That's actually been.
I want a 4570 bad.
It's pretty fun to shoot.
Yeah, some are even like shooting.
At SHOT Show, I shot the one of the Banish suppressors, one of their new ones, a suppressed 4570. Oh man, my nerd mind was exploding. It was so much fun. I need that.
I have a guesstimate in my mind, just seeing what you do and what you've talked about on the show. I have a guesstimate in my mind of how many guns you actually own. And you don't own a 4570?
No, I don't own a 4570. No.
In Utah?
I know, it's not right.
No.
Honey, did you hear that?
Yeah.
I need 4570.
Show his wife this video.
Gary's threatening my man car because I'll have a 4570.
It's not right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that thing. I don't even know where it was. Like in the middle of the pandemic, I was like, you know what I need? I need a lever gun.
And then the hunt was on. It was the obsession.
So those SBLs were not. You couldn't find those anywhere. And we're a full FFL and Class 3 dealer. Like suddenly they were in stock all the time, and I was like, apparently me and everybody else suddenly wanted to shoot lever guns because they went out of stock. And of course, he had all the issues with Remington and Marlin and all those things. So I finally found one in Colorado.
You found?
Summer finally found.
For Father's Day, that's what he wanted for his kids. So I called gun shops all over the country to find this thing in stock. Yeah. So anyway, go ahead with your story now.
She assisted with the search. So we finally find one in Colorado. It was Colorado, right?
We finally find one.
And I called for him. Yeah. I called him. I was like, hey, we're FFL. I need you to I saw this rifle.
Can you ship it to us?
And I was like we were pretty much buying it. I was like, hey, I'd like to buy it. He's like, yeah, no problem. Da, da. I was like, all right, well, when we're West Virginia, I need you to ship that too. He's like, ooh, we don't ship guns. I was like, what do you mean you don't ship guns? So luckily, a friend of mine that I work with happened to be like 40 miles from that store, and he was on leave and just out there vacation. Happened to be there, so I called him. I was like, hey man, can you go by and pick up this gun? So, anyways, it was quite the trek across the country, but we finally got it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, what's cool about those, you can do everything from Hornady polymer tip rounds that have pretty good ballistics to, just like I got a bunch of lead rounds over there. You can pack those things. They'll do whatever you want them to do. It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
And they put a thumping on a target. Boy.
I need one.
You do. You do. You need one of those things.
Yep.
What other questions we got down here?
Here's a good one. Any experience with the new military cartridges, 300 Norma or 338 Norma?
I don't.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
No,
not a bit.
Not a great question. I mean, great question. Just we can't give you the answer you want.
Yep.
I saw the question up before. I don't know if we addressed what Weatherby cartridge would we pick.
No, we didn't get to it.
That's the Weatherby cartridge I'd pick. I'm not interested at all in Weatherby cartridges right now. Ammo boxes are, $100, $120, a box for 20. Like every time I pull the trigger, I'm going to pay $6. I don't think so. And like the cartridges, the other thing is I feel like they're just headed the wrong direction. That, the Weatherby cartridges have been about speed at the expense of everything. And so it's not where the industry is going. Everybody wants short barrels right now. And they're 26-inch barrels, those Weatherby cartridges, for the most part. Then they do things like the 6.5 Weatherby RPM, and it's like, looks a lot like a 6.5 PRC, a little late to the party. And the ammo is going to cost way more, right? And so if you're reloading it, it's fine. It's not that I have anything against Weatherby. I love Weatherby. I've met quite a few people at Weatherby, super nice people, love a lot of it about it. The Weatherby guns I love, but those Weatherby cartridges, man, I have no interest in them when it's $100 a box. It just shows the reason why it's a bad idea. There's one company, for the most part, there are a couple of their loads that some of the other companies load for, but in general, it's one company loading for it. And they clearly can't keep up with the demand. And so the prices have just gone way out of control. And so I'm sorry, but Weatherby cartridges are out for me going forward. Same, I would say, with the Nosler cartridges.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely see a clear trajectory, I think, of the way things are going as far as both with companies and those cartridges overall, whether we're talking about the PRC cartridges. It's hard to beat some of the ballistic performance of those, as well as you can get them, even still, when you can find them, you can get them relatively cheap. It's pretty tough to beat on that. I even see 308. It's obviously going to be around for a while, but I definitely see that even 308 kind of even going more kind of the way of 30-06. There's always going to be people using it but for the most part, I even see 308 kind of going the way of the dinosaur for the most part. So we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah, the thing that 308 has going for it right now is it's the cheapest ammo, centerfire ammo you can find. Well, other
and you
than
can find it.
223. Yeah, it's everywhere. You're going to get several loads at most places, and a lot of other stuff you just can't find.
Yeah.
And I always, you always see these resurgence of popularity of these kind of classic cartridges too. So that'll probably come back where suddenly somebody will be saying how great 308 it actually is, and everybody will be going back to that. Just like
your lever action 4570. Someday when we're old, it'll be like, I got a bolt action 308.
It'll be all
it doesn't even have a laser.
We got a question for Gary. If Gary only had to have one rifle, which rifle with what cartridge? Hakuna Matata. This is a
no. I think it'd have to be
quite the question.
As far as the cartridge goes, it'd probably be 6.5. I think for everything
rifle though.
What's that?
He wants to know the
I'm getting to the rifle, woman. I'm thinking that through. You know, let me see. If again, I don't do a lot of hunting. So right now, my flavor of the week, and this will probably change in, 6 months or a year, but I'll tell you that MPA PMR Pro, for what it is, man, I love that rifle. But the Delta 5 is a really good rifle too. Both of those are heavy, but they are still viable for hunting as long as you're not backpacking around. And that's what I enjoy doing, sitting out there shooting groups, shooting distance. So my answer is going to be completely different from Jim's, but and I just love really nice operating rifles, right? And thinking of more along what I would consider kind of growing up as a sniper, what I would use for a sniper rifle. And to me, what is worth carrying, right? So to me, I would carry that 13-pound son of a gun all around just because I love it so much. And the same goes with the Delta Pro. And that's the great thing about today, is that there's so many great guns out there in just about every price range that you're looking for, built to do whatever you want to do it. 15 years ago, there was like the 700, the Remington 700, a couple different variants of that, and then you'd have to buy something custom. So man, you just got so many options. But I'll tell you what, I think for value, for what I would want out of a rifle and what it does, that MPR Pro is hard to beat. That's to beat. Cool. Jim, what would be your answer on that? One cartridge, one rifle.
I might say, well, the Fierce Reaper. That gun is just so cool. And I mean, probably 7 mag right now. I think that's going to be changing over time. We need that modern 7, but right now I think 7 mag.
Nice. Yeah, you'll have to shoot me some pictures of that Fierce Reaper. I guess I can look it up, but
I think it's pretty sweet.
You got me interested in that. Following the government cutting off Lake City ammo production. So I saw a article on that the other day. I haven't looked into it. Jim, have you looked into that at all?
I looked into a little bit, and it was one of those things that was hard to suss out the truth. Because I think it was, I can't remember one of the firearms blogs that kind of broke that story. I wish I could give them credit here. I don't like talking about other people's content without giving them credit. Anyway, broke the story. And then there was some response from the White House that maybe that wasn't the truth, but do we believe the White House, or was that guy misinformed? I don't know that I quite was able to suss out the truth there.
So here's what I can tell you. I don't know what the complete answer is that on either, but they had the same issue going on right around COVID when, and maybe it started right before, where we started going into the ammo shortages and stuff right about that time. And so one of the stories was that DHS was buying all these rounds and, basically trying to buy them up to keep them out of people's hands. That was kind of the narrative. And then the official government response was, that was nonsense. Knowing some people in DHS, it was a mix of both. So the reality was that, yeah, they had already placed this big purchase going, and it just happened to fall around that time. And that's why so many of these companies were pretty much sending all, but then they specifically did increase the purchase at the same time. And part of that was definitely the idea of, they wanted to basically keep it could be a little bit of both, right? They knew that there was ammo shortages, so they were trying to plus up their supplies. But there was a lot of, even within DHS, hey, this, they're trying to pull stuff out of the civilian market. And I do think that there was a genuine, I think there's some truth to that. So probably a little bit of truth to this too. Definitely with the current administration.
Hey, Jim, would you be interested in doing a review on the Fierce Reaper versus the Christensen Arms MPR? Can't decide. Would love to see a comparison. Thanks. Pretty sure he meant can't decide.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of variability in the quality of the MPRs, and I've heard a lot of mixed results in accuracy and things. And so the reason that I haven't done a review of the MPR, and I probably should, and just mention the issues there, But whenever I hear multiple reports of consistency problems, I kind of feel bad doing a review, because if I get a bad copy, it makes it look like they're all bad. And if I get a good copy, it makes them look like they're all good. And it's a very expensive gun. And so to spend $2,000 on a gun that may not be shooting, I'm not excited about. So honestly, I feel a lot of confidence in Fierce. Plus, they're just dang good people over there. I'm sure Christensen is too. I've met some of them as well. But that Fierce Reaper, seriously, I don't know how you beat it. And the price is about the same. And so I'd go with that.
Nice. Yeah, I'll tell you, people don't realize, and I didn't either. I don't know, maybe it was a year and a half ago or whatever. We originally got, when the Savage 110 Elite came out, I got one of those in, and ended up doing just an unboxing. I literally was making sure, I said, hey, look, folks, we're just unboxing this. We're going over the features of this. And, I was excited. I get excited about gear and guns. So I was all excited about it. I'm like, oh man, this is awesome. Basically like a PRS gun out of the box. A lot of great features on this. And I went through and I did pretty detailed review without actually shooting it. And then, so I did that review, and kind of over the unboxing and feature overview is really what I specifically labeled it as. Well, the next thing I know, that video is kind of taken off, and people are going out and buying these things. And then I go out and actually get time several weeks later to actually do an accuracy test, do cycling. And this thing will not cycle to save its life. It won't cycle right. The accuracy was dead on. It was like, I don't know, like a third MOA gun. It was great. But now, then you got to go back and you say, oh, guys, and then I get people, messaging, emailing us and things like, hey, man, my gun's not working. And, I've reached out to Savage and I've done this.
Somehow we became Savage customer service.
Yeah. Like that was legit. And then the next thing you know, so you do have to be careful. I know that was a real eye opener for me. Like, you got to be real careful. And that's the other thing too. You don't want to like slam a company if it isn't warranted or anything like that. So you definitely got to be careful about, I will never ever do like a feature overview without doing a full in-depth review, making sure we get accuracy, cycling, all those things. And luckily I was able to find a solution to it, because apparently Savage was denying the issue. We were getting messages after message, and it was all 6.5 for some reason. Yeah. People with 308 were saying, hey, my 308 works great. I think it also comes in, I know it comes in 338 Lapua. They didn't seem to have any major issues with that, but it was 6.5 specifically, almost across the board, or at least everyone that was contacting me said, hey, 6.5 was having an issue. And the Savage was denying it completely. And basically what I ended up having to do was grind off like probably a couple thousandths on the ejector, and also bevel that ejector. For some reason, that kind of solved all the issues with 6.5. Now, and it was weird, I had a client that ordered another one, even though what's that?
It was like one that came in like a few months later.
It was like almost 6 months later.
Yeah.
A client wanted it. I was like, hey, this is the issues with it. We can probably get it working, but I don't necessarily recommend. She wanted it, so we got it for her. But that was like a completely different gun. They clearly fixed those issues. They had redone the grip was different on it. It was almost like a 2.0 version, version 2 of that. So they clearly fixed those issues. But
yeah, I was upstairs doing something. He's like, Summer, come here. And he's like, look at this. This is like the better version of my gun. I need another one. I'm like, no, we're good.
Yeah, quality control is a big deal. I've seen problems from several manufacturers that they just won't admit it when there's clearly a problem with some guns. SIG's an offender of this for sure. That SIG Cross that frankly I like. I think it's a good gun, but it has that safety selector, and between fire and safe, when you just flip it, it looks like an AR-15. It actually works quite a bit different, but it looks like an AR-15 style safety. And when you just flip from fire to safe, it gets caught halfway between them. And it's on thousands of guns, that issue. I talked with SIG about it, and I was like, hey, yeah, it's kind of hanging between fire and safe. Multiple reviews have mentioned this, heard it from a lot of people. Like, this is not an isolated issue. And they're like, yeah, we're aware of it, but when it's in that half position, it is actually safe. It just doesn't show. And it's like, dude, a gun that isn't clear if it's in fire or safe is unacceptable. It's just not acceptable. And you need to fix it. And they just whatever, you know, and it just, that kind of thing, just that mentality drives me nuts.
It does.
Of just like, first of all, you should be doing way more testing before this hits the market, because that kind of thing where it's that widespread and pretty obvious issue, most people are going to notice it. We should have caught that before. So that shouldn't have even happened. But when it does happen, fess up and let's address it, you know? But so many things just get left forever. And then the gun manufacturers complain about, you know, liability in these lawsuits of guns that don't fire and it's not true and stuff. And it's like, okay, but I've seen actual safety issues in these guns that I know are not being addressed. So it makes me wonder about the other issues.
And it's clearly not one-off. So, you know, that's the thing too, is they're testing. They probably have a test batch of like 5 or 6 guns that they're as in development, and then, you know, they're tweaking those issues for those guns, but then they don't do a whole lot of testing over a much larger sample. And I think that's the issue. And the problem with, you know, that's unfortunate for guys like you and me, is exactly that issue. Is like, once we start testing the gun and we're like, hey man, this gun's great, but that gun just happens to be, you know, one that works really well, or the opposite takes place. Like, this gun is not great. You know, the reality is that, and next thing you know, now we're shills for a company that is sending out junk. And that's one of my, always a hesitation of me to take something directly from a manufacturer, which we haven't done on guns. But I'm always concerned about that. You know, they're going to go out there, test fire, make sure it all works good before they send it to somebody that's going to do any publication on it, without a doubt.
You'd hope so, but I've been amazed at some of the stuff I've got where I'd like, if I was sending this to a publication, I would have checked it.
Yeah. There you go.
I'll give you an example, is this Mossberg Patriot that I just went out and tested today. Today, again, I've spent a few days on it. So I bought a Mossberg Patriot a couple of years ago now. It was shooting wild. I mean, it was just vomiting all over the paper, and sometimes not even on the paper, like 8-inch groups, and just crazy. I sent it back. 308. I sent it back for Mossberg to fix it. Mossberg replaces the barrel, and they send me a test target showing that they've fixed the accuracy issues. It comes back to me. It's not shooting. And I'm like, what the crap? It's like, I can shoot better than a 4-inch group, I promise, you know? But man, it's just still not shooting well. And I tried a whole bunch of loads and kind of find one that's okay-ish, but I still can't get it under 1 inch. And so Mossberg says, let's just ship you a new gun, brand new gun. Forget that thing. It's a lemon. Happens. Can happen to any gun manufacturer. So they send me a new one, and it doesn't shoot. I cannot get a group under 1 MOA. I shot, a lot, dozens and dozens of rounds, and I still haven't seen a sub MOA group out of it. And so then the plot thickens even more. I start looking, this is ongoing. This review hasn't even come out yet, but the plot thickens even more because I start watching other guys' reviews on YouTube of the exact same gun and the same caliber. All of them, the groups are over 1 inch for that Mossberg Patriot in 308. And so I went through all their reviews and I took a screenshot of their groups, and I'm showing it. And I say all of them. I guess there were 1 or 2 that did get one squeaking under 1 inch, but on average, not even close. And so I'm putting that review out, and it's like, man, it's not that I want to like firebomb this company or anything. Like Mossberg's an awesome company, but to me, that's a significant issue where I've had 2 of the guns can't get it to shoot at all, a sub MOA group. And watching other reviewers, they can't either. It kind of looks like there's an issue with the gun. And so I guess I just wonder like what the mentality is. Like if I were a gun manufacturer, shouldn't I know that there's an issue? And then the Mossberg Patriot's been in production for years. Like, shouldn't we be iterating and fixing that thing? It blows my mind. I can't think of a business where like I would just not know about or not address significant issues in trying to improve my product. It's so weird. But these bigger gun companies, some wild stuff happens.
I thought that long and hard about Savage. I ended up making kind of a slam video. I was like, I made a video of like why I don't think you should buy a Savage, and it was kind of addressing all those things. And I think ultimately their idea is, and I think this played out, and I was thinking this before I even got that new rifle, I was like, I think what they do is they make this batch of rifles, they identify a problem, and let's be real, I'm sure margins on guns when it's all said and done is pretty low. I know it is for the FFL side. Like, if you make 10% on a gun, that's quite a bit, and most of the time you're not even making that. So I'm sure on the production side, margins aren't that high. And then on top of that, I think what they think they can get away with is dealing with those one-on-one, saying, hey, it's you, pretending to fix it, or giving you kind of blanket answers, and then fix the production as they go. And I think they believe that that's not going to hurt their market share and or overall reputation. And I think that's a bad miscalculation.
Well, I think maybe before the age of social media and YouTube and instant access, that may have been a viable option. Yeah. But now when you have everyone that is putting content out like this, you can't deny when it's repeated over and over.
100%. And I think that's one of the things I've talked about too, is like, as people in the gun industry, I think sometimes, we get, because the industry is so under fire already, I think we become protective, and we're hesitant to hold companies accountable. And I think that is also, the wrong approach. And I definitely know how I'm going to. I've thought long and hard about, like, hey, all you can do is tell it exactly how it is. And that's it. And if they're not handling customer service issues, that's part of that. And I think that people like us have a responsibility to get that information out so that we can go with companies that I know are handling customer service issues seriously. So, I think we got to be, we just got to hold companies accountable and regardless of what's going on in the industry.
And it's hard to do as YouTubers now with YouTube's rules. They don't allow brand recommendations or brand comparisons in the monetized videos. And so it's so frustrating to me that I go do a review of this and I can't say, I've also shot a lot of other rifles in 308, and here's how they did on average with their accuracy. They don't allow you to compare those. And so it's so frustrating that there's so much that I want to say and I can't say it.
Well, and I used to, again, and even still sometimes, I've been very careful, and we talked about this on the phone for just a little bit. And this was a whole section I meant to kind of hit you on and see your thoughts on it. But, you can go through as a 2A channel or gun channel, or whatever else. And I've been very meticulous about hitting all those wickets, making sure I don't do this. And man, it's like you got no recourse. And that's the frustrating, like, oh my God, I just want to talk to somebody. They still demonetize your video. And like you even said, there's almost no rhyme and reason. Like, I can, I'll do one video, do the exact same thing, and another one is demonetized, the other isn't. Then I can test it, ask for a review, and it still gets shut down. Like, it's so. What is your thoughts on the censorship on YouTube, and what's been your experience with that?
It's crazy, and it's getting worse. I think I've kind of gotten through it now, but maybe a month ago, something must have got flagged on my channel, and I had 12 videos in a row that got demonetized when I first uploaded it, and I had to send it to a manual reviewer. 12 out of 12, the manual reviewer said it was actually fine following the rules and it got monetized, but something got flagged that every single video went to a manual reviewer. And it's kind of scary. And other channels like Ultimate Reloader channel, great, awesome guys over there.
Yeah,
they're not a monetized channel, and they got an email from YouTube saying, yeah, if you ever want to be monetized again, you can't be, and so it's very frustrating because they aren't implementing the rules as they state them. And the rules are self-contradictory in several places, and extremely vague in all places, where they're not really spelling out what they mean. It says we can't promote a gun manufacturer or the sale of a product. And so if I give a positive review and I say, this is awesome, I totally recommend it, didn't I just promote the sale of a firearm? That's promoting. And so what is that? And then you can't compare it to other brands. Like, what kind of review? Like, I can say, here's this gun, it is good. I can't tell you how it is, if it is good compared to all the others the same price, but it is good. And so it's so awkward. And you get comments of people saying like, why didn't you address this? And it's like, I wish I could have, And so it's funny. I mean, sometimes I've got videos that have gone through that I'm like, I thought that one was kind of borderline and it went through, and others that they've just stopped. I have a little library now of entire videos that I've made. It's a lot of work goes into a video, and they demonetized it. And so I don't upload it. I don't work for free. And so I'm starting to build up that library, and eventually I'm going to have to just put it behind a paywall or something, have it on my website, to be able to put those videos up. But that's my new policy. If YouTube demonetizes it, I don't upload, because that just gives them what they want, right? It just lets them profit off my content without paying me.
Right.
Nope. And that's the crazy thing. Like, I'll watch one of my demonetized videos and saying, and for those of you who don't know, what they say on that, folks, is they've demonetized this. I forgot the exact verbiage, but we don't think that, was it advertisers?
For advertisers, yeah.
Yeah, like advertisers won't like this or something along those lines. And then you watch one of your own videos that's demonetized, and they're advertising all through it, and they're clearly making money off of your content.
And it's a self-fulfilling prophecy too, because on the advertiser site, they block the gun manufacturers and stuff. And so they're blocking all of those people from advertising. And then they're like, look, nobody wants to advertise on that content. It's like, yeah, because you blocked them. Right. Yeah. And so it's a total farce to say that they're doing it for the advertiser. It's because they've chosen the pool. Plus, they could just easily give those advertisers the tool to be able to choose, I don't want to advertise on firearms content. Just give them the choice. Yeah. But instead, Google they're doing it for censorship. It's not for the advertisers.
It's political give them the tool. Activism. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. That's they're trying to silence a certain block of whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, another perfect example of that is YouTube doesn't allow even showing high capacity magazines, which they determine as 30 rounds. Right. And so with all the gun control talk now, after the Uvalde shooting, I was planning a YouTube short that I thought, hey, I want to show you like how much time do you actually save by having a 30 round magazine versus just two 20-round magazines. Like, how long does it take to really do a mag, switch a mag? Like, people who aren't gun people, they can see, they might think, oh yeah, that would make us safer if they don't have high capacity magazines. And gun guys are like, what? How long does a mag change really take? Right? That's stupid. And so I was planning this YouTube short, and then I realized like, I can't do it. I can't show a 30-round mag. And so that's so frustrating, because that's like hurting our democracy. We can't have the kind of debate we want because of their censorship. And so it's not making us safer. It's hurting the ability for us to have a robust debate and have good laws that people are informed as they vote.
And it's keeping stupid people stupid. That's what it's about. So like all my, like literally every video of mine, I think my gun safe video wasn't demonetized, and
a gun safe video.
What's that?
A gun safe video was demonetized?
It was not. It was not.
Oh, okay.
Pretty much all of them are demonetized except for the gun safe one.
Yeah, that one.
Oh, interesting.
I've done on stuff on med, just tourniquets and talking about medical supplies and procedures, and look for medical training, and demonetized, like everything. And I was thinking earlier when you were talking about how you kind of hit a certain point and you started, and maybe this is true or maybe not. I also think there's probably a point, because I also see some of these other big gun channels that I'm assuming are still monetized, but after what you just said about Ultimate Reloader, maybe that's not the case. But I also think that there's probably a calculus at some point where they're like, hey, this guy has 100,000 plus viewers. We need to promote this channel. It's obviously got some function. Whereas, a smaller channel like us, hey, let's suppress them to begin with. I don't know if that's a actual.
I think there's some evidence for that. That period where I had 12 videos in a row that got demonetized and sent to a manual reviewer was right before I hit 500,000 subscribers. And it just made me think like, maybe this is a check. Because then you look at the huge channels like Demolition Ranch and Kentucky Ballistics. They do wild stuff that just blatantly violates YouTube's rules, and they just cruise on. Not all of their videos are monetized, but many are. Right. And they're just blatantly running over the rules. They'll do videos where they're saying, I'm going to this gun store on this day, and I'm going to show you selling all the guns, and I invite you all to come. Like, that's not one of the monetization rules. That's one of the rules for just uploading content to YouTube at all, that they don't allow that. And those channels are doing it blatantly multiple times, no problem.
Yep. I think our camera just shut off real quick. Just a second. Here's a question from John. How does Patreon work for 2A businesses or channels, I guess?
I haven't messed with Patreon because they've done some anti-2A stuff in the past. And so I'm not interested in Patreon. I am looking at moving toward having a membership site, but I won't do it through Patreon. I'll roll my own, make my own, because I don't want to use Patreon. Nope.
Yeah. Here's another question for you, Jim. Jim, how do you deal with the initial cold bore flyer, first shot that's off the follow-ups when you go hunting?
Yeah. So, man, there's so much that I have realized, especially as I've traveled to hunt, that it explains when you're watching so many hunting shows, guys that have shows and YouTube videos, that guys can practice all year long and then miss at the moment of truth. And it's just so easy to do when, especially, you're taking your gun, you're shooting all summer, it's hot, go up into the mountains and it's frigid. Like, well, what powder is in that load you're using? It could drastically change the performance of that shot, right? Are you shooting at a range, thin little barrel on a hunting rifle? You're sighting in, and the barrel's always kind of warm by the end of the day. You're letting it cool down between shots, but it's still pretty warm each time, because you're not waiting until it's actually cold each time. And so what you think your zero is actually not your zero for that one shot you take hunting. And so
you just muted him.
Exactly where I have planned for hunting. The only way to do it is to shoot in those conditions and go, shoot. And after even one shot, you may need to wait 15 minutes for it to get to fully ambient temperature to do it again, and make sure your cold bore zero is correct. It depends on the gun. If you're shooting with something with a pretty thick barrel, especially a carbon barrel too, they're very rigid. And so I don't see a whole lot of difference a lot of times between the cold bore and a warm bore shot. But especially if you're on those pencil barrel things and you're going to a cold place like a hunt to go shoot, and you got to really know what your gun is doing, or it could perform drastically different than what it did in practice.
Got another one here from Bending Ballistics. He said, do you think the 7mm PRC, well, hold on just a second, I lost our screen again. I'm sure you can see it on that side, Jim.
I can see it, yeah. Yeah, do you think 7 PRC will replace 6.8 Western? Again, I have a video coming out on Backfire tomorrow that's going to be the full reveal of the 7 PRC. And so I know people always freak out at me when I'm talking about a new cartridge, and I say, I think this is going to be big, because they always say, oh, there's so many cartridges already. But Hornady has an unbeatable track record with cartridges. I mean, what are their last releases? 6.5 Creedmoor, 6.5 PRC, 300 PRC. You look at a new gun store now at Hunting Rifles, that's like all they have is those cartridges. Hornady is just dominating the cartridge marketing game, and for good reason. They're great, but especially the marketing, they're doing a good job of. And so, do I think 7 PRC will replace 6.8 Western? Yeah, I do, but I don't think they're exactly equivalent cartridges. And I think the 6.8 Western is fabulous. I love 6.8 Western. It's just that Hornady has an amazing track record, and I do think the 6.8 Western probably should have been the 7 Western for marketing, for hunting guys. If the more I just stare at my database of ballistics and stuff that I do for so many videos, there's just a big hole right now for a modern 7 we just haven't seen yet. And so, especially where everybody's trying to go into high BC bullets, a modern 7 is going to be huge. I think we're going to be talking about 7 PRC for many years to come. And I know that's crazy to say because it hasn't even been announced yet. So I realize how crazy that is. But I've talked to so many guys that have said the same thing, like, why isn't anybody releasing a modern 7? Like, it's kind of weird that it hasn't happened yet. And so for that reason, I think it's going to be big when it comes out.
No, I remember having those debates way back when, talking about, what is the perfect long range bullet out there. And it was always talked about how that right at that 7mm, that's where you want to be. And that was back before we started making these high BC bullets with the longer ogive and just longer overall profile. And no, I think you're onto something there. But
yeah, and I think the short answer for maybe the people that aren't staring at it all day is you can get those essentially the same weights as many of our popular 308 caliber cartridges, same weights, but higher BC if all else is equal. And most people aren't needing to go, over 200 grains to hunt most things. And so that's why I think 7 is such a special place.
So you like 7mm, you're saying?
A little bit.
No. Well, look, Jim, everybody, folks, look, we really appreciate you guys tuning in. And I just want to thank you again, Jim, for, gracing us with your presence. We really do appreciate it. It was great to talk to you. And hopefully, even offline, we'll talk a little bit more and do some things here in the future together. We appreciate you coming on. Any last words for everybody out there?
Live well and prosper.
There you go. I think those are great. That's a great phrase. I've heard that before somewhere. Folks, we really appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for everything that you guys do, how you support us. For those of you that haven't yet, make sure you go subscribe to Jim's channel. He has a great channel out there. And again, we always appreciate everything you do, whether you're doing business with us, whether you're our training clients, whether you're just subscribers on our YouTube channel. If you haven't checked it out, make sure you go check out that PMR Pro 2 review that we just dropped today. I think you'll like that a lot. Jim, you got any recent videos you want to direct anybody to?
No, they're lame. Your channels are better.
They're not lame. Look, he puts out some seriously good content.
Well, there's a big announcement on his channel tomorrow about the.
Yes,
that's true. Yeah, that's true. Tomorrow I'll have something good.
Definitely go check that. I know I'm going to. And again, we appreciate everything that everybody's doing out there. Stay free. Continue to support the Second Amendment. Make sure you get involved politically. We got to make sure that we are, just making sure that we're maintaining our country and the traditions that's meant to, and just sustaining and protecting the Constitution. Let's just start there. We can start right there and just keep moving forward. Well, Jim, we appreciate it. Thank you for such a great time, and we'll do something again pretty soon. And we'll log off here, and we'll talk to you right when we're done here.
Thank you.
For everybody else, stay armed, stay ready, and we'll talk to you soon.